Hey everyone, welcome to the Roto Grinders Morning Grind podcast. I'm your host, Stevie TPFL. It's October. It's not September anymore. It's the 3rd. It's 2016 and it's Monday. So we're back here with the Morning Grind. Hope everyone had a great NFL weekend. We're going to talk some NFL here because, hey, no baseball today. It's just so weird not having to write baseball articles and break down 15 games and get ready for this podcast. But I can't lie. It's a little nice. So get a couple days off before we start talking playoff baseball. And we're going to talk some NFL. We're going to talk some reviews. We're going to review our cash lineups on both the sites. And how you doing, Siege?
Man, it's been a really weird night, to be honest. It's been a great night, but I would classify this as one of the most crazy nights I could have ever expected. Like, if you told me this day was going to go the way it did, I would have just been, I don't know, shocked. I think it's like not an understatement for what I would have expected. But it was a good day overall, though.
Yeah, we'll talk about the day in NFL, as we go through the podcast today. But let's talk about our sponsor, Rosters.com. If you guys haven't checked out Rosters, I played over there for the first time this past weekend. Really enjoyed it. I like the tight cap. You didn't see a lot of the high scores like you've seen on the other sites. I felt like I was live all day. Ended up, I think, cashing 2 of my 4 or 5 teams. I think that's how many I put in. I don't even remember, but checked it out. I got a couple tickets now for that championship event. They're giving away 2 tickets, all expenses paid, to the Super Bowl. Make sure you guys head on over there to the Roto Grinders forum. It's all the way at the top there, pinned. Win all expenses paid trip to the Super Bowl by playing on Rosters. All you got to do is play $100 in NFL each week, and you'll get a ticket to the championship event in week 7. And if you cash in the $25 tournament, you'll also get a ticket. So I got a few tickets this week. I'm excited to play in that championship event on week 7.
Yeah, I forgot to play my other entries, but I played the one that I built during the show. And honestly, not much of a surprise because my core honestly did really well this week. I just built my core and it cashed. So I've got a ticket. And I didn't remember to get my entries in earlier on Rosters.
Yeah. All right. So before we get into anything, all I want to say is Team Chalk got so absolutely lucky that
we ran really bad in baseball with the Sal Perez top 9 homer. This was just infinitely worse than that. Team Chalk playing Travis Kelce and cash. I respect Team Chalk, but I don't know what the hell they were thinking paying up a tight end for that guy, and then to get that touchdown to win by 0.9. I was joking he needs to eat more horseshoes. Apparently he listened to my lesson and had his Lucky Charms or something. Jesus.
Well, he wished me luck for my Monday sweat that I have for the Playboy qualifier, and I feel good now. Dean wished me luck. I know he has all the luck in the world, so I actually feel a little good going into Monday night.
Man, I'm rooting for you too. It'd be nice to get some field goals there. I obviously am not. I have a lot of interest in them scoring touchdowns, but at least if I know if I lose, you're gonna probably win. So that's always a nice feeling to have, knowing a buddy's gonna benefit from my pain.
All right, and quick congratulations to Mama Siege taking down a New York qualifier on DraftKings. I know your mom plays fantasy. We talk about it off the air all the time, and you sent me this text, and I couldn't have been more excited for your mom, man. It's just absolutely awesome.
Yeah, so I was following along. She sent me a link to the New York queue, and her lineup from pretty much the word go was a really great lineup. And the funny thing is, she asked me for who my favorite plays are, and I gave her a list. But things that advanced DFS players knowing, having Le'Veon Bell in the late slot and calling me, being hey, there's no one in front of me with a flex or a running back left. Do I keep it the same? Advanced stuff. And she was really on top of it and just crushed it. And I could have been more proud. She didn't even get much from Elliott or Bell in those kind of late games. I mean, the yardage wise, but in terms of touchdowns, didn't really get honestly as much as she kind of deserved, and still just murdered it. Won the New York seat, won 2 King of the Beach seats. Pressure's on me now. She won 2, and then she only played the $1 Qs too for those King of the Beaches. Pressure's on me now. I got to step up here. I got 1, but 1 ain't gonna get it done now.
That's an excellent return. Put in $2 and win 2 seats.
Yes, that's a. If in case you're curious, that is a 736,000% ROI.
Yeah, well, Just absolutely insane. And back to your point, we're going to break down our cash lineups in a second, but looking at the Team Chalk versus Team Crazy just contest real quick, they made a rookie mistake, and I'm calling them out. Like, I'm not even calling them out because they beat us, but they had Le'Veon Bell at their running back position, Carlos Hyde at their flex. Like, that's just a rookie mistake, and we lost to this. I'm so aggravated that we lost to this, but guys, don't do that. Always make sure your late guys are there in the flex.
I'm really kind of mad that you brought that up because, like, now we lost to, like, a team of rookies. Like, God, that really pisses me off. I have anything here I can throw into the wall? Yeah, I got a piece of paper here. I can just throw it at the wall. God damn it.
All right, let's
dumbass Chalk. Like, I love those guys, and I'm not, like, being mean to them. Just, like, God, I know how you guys feel. Like, I'm sure everyone's felt tilt that's listening to this podcast, right? Even if it's, like, you know, like $1 or $2, just, like, it doesn't matter what the amount of money is or, like, if there's any money at all. Like, the tilt when you lose on a bad beat just does not go away, and it's the pain and also the excitement of why we do DFS. It's half the reason, but man, when you're on the other side, it does not feel good.
All right, before we review our cash lineups, we're going to talk about them, how we got to those plays, roster construction and all that stuff. We open it up to you guys on the forums, on Twitter, let you guys kind of what you wanted to talk about, and overwhelming amount of people wanted a review show. So what we're going to do here at the first part of the podcast is we're going to go down Sunday's schedule and talk about the games, see if there was anything that we noticed that might help you guys for this week coming up, moving forward the season, and just kind of have some fun with some football talk here on a Monday because we just don't have any baseball. So, it's your morning grind, and it's Siege and Stevie. So let's talk about some football. We had the Broncos at Bucks, 27-7. The one thing that stood out to me here, obviously Paxton Lynch came in, looked really good. We're going to have to pay attention to the news here to see who's going to be starting for Denver moving forward with the injury to, is it Semien?
Yeah, Semien. Yeah, it looked like a shoulder. It looked a little preventative more than anything, to be honest. But they had a pretty big lead at that point. And I think he could have come back in if it got close, but Paxton Lynch looked pretty damn good.
Paxton Lynch, a local boy from me, went to the same high school as me. We went to the same private Christian school. So, I'm rooting for him. Nothing really new here. Like, Emmanuel Sanders continues to be the guy that looks like the number one. But DT, man, 6 catches, 94 yards, and a touchdown. That's something we haven't seen all year.
Yeah, 7 targets, though. Like, you're right. Like, Sanders is still the primary guy here. And I think that was the takeaway. Like, DT might have had the better game, but Sanders is the guy. And I played him in cash on Thursday, and I just didn't pull the trigger on Sunday, and I kind of regret it. I knew he'd be a high target guy and likely to get a lot of targets inside the box. And the box, by the box, I mean the red zone or touchdowns. So I'm a little mad I didn't pull through that trigger on Sunday. Kind of the nice part on FanDuel is, though, you're kind of locked in when you make a decision. You can't talk yourself out of it. So that was nice. I had a lot of good success on Thursday cash because of Sanders. But, yeah, he's the guy. And I kind of hope this game went a little bit under the radar and nobody was paying attention because I'm going to be super heavy on him one more time.
Anderson, it was a tough matchup. Like, we talk about it all the time. Tampa funnels the run. They want you to throw the ball. They want you to run it, but they're going to beat you by the throw. Anderson, 19 carries, 49 yards. And nothing else really stood out to me for Denver, but how bad does the Tampa offense look without Doug Martin?
Yeah, I really kind of thought this was a sneaky spot for Charles Sims as the week went on. I thought I got really more and more heavy on him. Thankfully, Terrence West became a little bit of a value on Sunday, so I kind of moved back a little bit towards the chalk. But I still had a lot of Sims, and I was pretty disappointed in this performance. I thought he was going to be kind of like a Tricanders West last year against Denver, and honestly, Tampa just kind of no-showed. Kind of makes me think week 1 was kind of the fluke, and this team really just isn't all that good.
Cameron Brate, somebody that we can look at if he continues to stay cheap. 8 targets in this game, 5 catches for 67 yards. He's a guy that we want to keep our eye on if he has a good tight end matchup. Yeah,
especially on DraftKings where you can play 2 tight ends in tournaments. It's one of my favorite things to do. This was a really deep tight end week, and it really kind of paid off and was a key to a lot of my success this week was playing 2 tight ends, kind of at all price points too. It really wasn't just high or low. I thought that Brate is a good option. I liked him this week. It was really deep. Maybe it's the buys kind of approach. We can kind of use him as a sneaky option, but he looks to be for real. And I don't know who. Let me see who Tampa has next week. Trying to sneak ahead here. At Carolina, so not the ideal matchup. and then they got a bye. So at the 49ers might be the perfect spot for this kind of redemption spot here for Cameron Brate. So don't forget about him as the weeks go on here.
All right, let's move on. Tennessee, Houston. Tennessee offense looks bad. Like DeMarco Murray looks so good, and the rest of his offense just looks so bad.
Yeah, I'm really happy preseason. Like one of my biggest calls on the preseason was kind of just to get heavy on DeMarco at MFL 10s. I thought that Derrick Henry love was a bit overrated, and it's really been paying off kind of even honestly more than I ever imagined it could. Like he's the guy at this point. 25 carries, the 3 for Henry. It's DeMarco Murray's show, and he's kind of just been a beast. But reality is just that Tennessee has no wide receiving core, and they kind of benched Tajay Sharp just due to poor performance, but I don't know if that was really a smart idea because putting Rashard Matthews in a higher profile role really makes no sense. Like you got to develop Sharp, and I get if maybe it was a 1-week punishment thing, but if that's like their long-term solution, that's not going to work because this passing attack was bad, and a lot of that's Mariota too, who I know you're a huge fan of, and I mean I really did. I'm proud of like one of the things I did was talk you off Mariota these last couple of weeks because I saved you a whole lot of money.
Looking at the Houston side of things, is Lamar Miller just going to be one of these safe backs that we can look at for floor each week?
Yeah, I still think in the box though that Brock's going to be the guy. Will Fuller caught a touchdown today. I really think like kind of in the box he's going to be the guy. DeAndre Hopkins did absolutely nothing today. Really was shut down. They kind of just let Will Fuller go off on that one side, and he certainly did not like disappoint. 7 receptions on 81 yards, 9 targets. Like, I don't know what his price is. I haven't looked to see if DraftKings raised his price yet to a level where I could consider fading him at this point. Actually, the Million Maker's up. So I'm going to go ahead and quickly pull this up here. Let's see what Will Fuller comes in at. He's 5,800. It's a tougher matchup at Minnesota, but certainly not one I'm going to be really interested in fading, to be honest.
Cleveland and Washington, ugly football game.
Ugly. I thought this game was great.
I will say, like, can we look at Crowell? Like, is this a fluke, or is he really going to be a guy we can target?
Huge shout out to the Smiz Life, Al Zeidenfeld, one of the best guys out there. He got me on Crowell. I can't lie. I can't say it was a guy that I had a ton of interest in as the week went on. And, as you go through your process, you listen and you read stuff from guys you trusted. He really believed in Crowell, and I jumped on board. The Washington defense was really bad against the run, and it was a good spot for him. And he certainly didn't disappoint with a 7.5 yards per carry and a touchdown today. I think he's going to be a guy you can play in good matchups. I don't know if he's a guy, though, you really want to be playing in bad matchups here. Cleveland, I think, schedule's getting a little bit harder here as we kind of move on the next couple of weeks. But he might be a guy you want to remember here as the weeks go on. Pull up the schedule. They get the Patriots next week at home. They get with Tom Brady back. No, that's not the matchup. At Titans might be a solid spot. So that might be a spot here in, week 6 that I could see myself getting back on that Crowell train.
Terrell Pryor, 9 targets, 5 catches, 46 yards, and a touchdown. And he actually got shadowed by Norman, which kind of shocked me, but it didn't shock me. Like, he obviously was the most talented player on the field.
Yeah, and, shout out to the Redskins for actually for once deceiving the media. They've been kind of like telling everybody what they were going to do. And they finally realized, hey, let's not tell the media everything we're going to do. That being said, though, for a guy that was being shadowed by Norman, Pryor looked pretty darn good. Like, X receivers against Washington have been pretty good, and he didn't really disappoint either. He's got a tough matchup against the Patriots next week. But maybe if they fall behind, he can get some garbage time. And then at Titans for him, too, is a good spot. So I don't think this is the last we've heard of Terrell Pryor, that's for sure.
Hopefully he goes out and duds next week, and we get to use him against the Titans. Looking at the other side.
So isn't even fadeable. Like, what do you think his price on DK is? I know you haven't looked at the pricing, and I just pulled it up. So
I'm hoping it's in the 6,000s.
It's not.
Is it in the 5,000s?
It is.
58?
Yep. I don't know. That it's definitely interesting at that price point. Even in a tough matchup, I think you have to really consider him at that price against, we saw some kind of slot guys that don't have a huge ADOT do really well against the Patriots. I think of the Jarvis Landry or Devontae Parker against the Pats. I think and Larry Fitz went off on him too. Like this might actually be a solid sneaky spot for Terrell Pryor.
Looking at the Washington side of this game, Kirk Cousins 21 for 27, stays efficient at home, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick, was sacked 3 times. Matt Jones, this is the spot that I'm going to tell you. Matt Jones is probably still not a good running back, and the Cleveland run defense is just not good still.
Nope. Yeah, you're on board with all those. Don't believe in Matt Jones. That's for sure.
Jordan Reed, it finally happened. We talked about it on the podcast. We said, like, there's just no way this guy continues not to get red zone targets. 9 targets or 10 targets for 9 catches and 2 touchdowns. We knew it was coming.
Yeah, and it really came at the expense of Jamison Crowder. Like, they finally realized that, hey, we've got this beast, and we probably should use him in the red zone. And they, at least common sense prevailed. That's all I can say.
All right, Seattle, the Jets, Russell Wilson. Oh, I'm so banged up. Special brace. Take this out of it. He had 5 carries for -5 yards, but he had 309 yards passing, and he looked good. 3 touchdowns, 0 picks.
This is honestly the one game I'm really tilted about. I feel like I did a really good job in evaluating how the game was going to play. I thought Seattle was going to throw a ton, and I thought that the wide receiving core would have good games. Just Doug Baldwin didn't get the receptions or into the box, and just I don't know. That 9.4 really leaves a really salty water taste in my mouth. Like they let freaking Tanner McAvoy, the quarterback from freaking Wisconsin that couldn't run when he was a quarterback, get wide open, and there's a whole lot of that. Christine Michael and CJ Spiller. Like I think if you played Doug Baldwin, your process was good. It just didn't work out this time, and you just got to move on.
One other thing I want to take about Seattle here, take out of this game is Christian Michael when Rawls is not in or active. Like Christian Michael's a safe running back. Like he had 18 carries, nobody else even close to him outside of Wilson, and he had 6 targets in the passing game too.
Yeah, he was really good. Interesting to note, though, CJ Spiller got 2 carries and 3 targets. Not like I'm just going to stop me from playing Michael in the near term, but I'm certainly going to keep an eye on those targets and touches and see if they start to creep up a little bit.
Other side of the game, Fitzpatrick, 9 interceptions and 1 touchdown in the last 2 games.
Yeah, his wide receivers core is hurt. They get the Steelers next week on Sunday here. I think it's interesting. I think it's kind of a nice rebound spot a little bit. The Steelers secondary not as good as they kind of showed against the Chiefs. But it really depends on the health of the wide receivers. So we got to see what their status really is heading into that game.
Are we starting to see the Matt Forte stock drop here? I know that Powell still didn't get a lot of carries, but he was targeted 9 times in the passing game.
Yeah, he's got 2 more tough matchups where he'll get written off for dead. Steelers and Cardinals. And then kind of actually October 23rd, my birthday, he gets a good spot against the Ravens, and then he gets the Browns. I think he's going to be a really great tournament play one of those 2 weeks. Actually, I'll put that down on my list of I write down spots that I like in the future. I told you this before the preseason. Like I thought Falcons against Carolina this week was a good spot. And I told all the listeners too in the podcast. Look, if you see spots like this as you do your research, write them down so you don't forget. Because this is a spot where the Forte value will be low because of the recency bias, but situationally it's a great spot.
All right, one last thing for the Jets. Brandon Marshall, 12 targets, only 4 catches, but he did have a touchdown. You just said that they get to play the Steelers. You have to think that Marshall's going to get double-digit targets once again.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right. Any other thoughts on this Jets offense? I can't even pronounce this guy's name. Ianua?
Yeah, I don't mind him. It's a situational spot. You got to find a good game where you think the Jets' passing attack is going to start working. And I think at this point it's kind of a situation I want to see it before I kind of a lot of confidence in it.
So, I traveled out of town this weekend, and always when I go to town, especially this weekend, it was a 4-hour drive for me. I always listen to podcasts, and I always queue up my own podcasts. So I queued up our Thursday podcast, and you said some stuff on the podcast, and we were pretty spot on for the podcast last week. And you said the New England letdown game is coming. Don't play their defense. And the more and more I thought about it, the more and more I got off of them and got on to Houston because everybody was talking about how J.J. Watt is not playing. And I was just like, who cares? Like, he's been bad this season. But so I got off the New England defense. The letdown game happened. Buffalo Bills shut out New England in New England 16-0. What do we take out of this game? I know we're not going to take a lot from New England's side because Tom Brady comes back against Cleveland Browns next week.
This is a perfect game to just completely ignore. You know how there's certain teams like Pittsburgh last week put up a dud against the Eagles, right? Each team has a dud or two, and you have to have the ability to just kind of throw that game out of your mind. That's a perfect example of what to do for this game. It was just kind of the situation that could have happened last week into New England. Kind of why I was high on Will Fuller last week. I thought this dud was happening last week. Houston just decided to play even worse than New England. And so Patriots just came out flat here, kind of worked Gronk in a little bit slowly here. I think you're going to see the Patriots full bore next week. And honestly, that's a spot where the Pats might run up the score, right? Because they're trying to get work with their first team because they haven't had it. So, yeah, that's a spot I will be loving next week. That's for sure.
Oh, that's going to be the Cam Newton or the Tom Brady FU game.
Oh, Cam Newton. God.
Well, you know what game I pulled up while we were talking about it? Carolina, Atlanta. We'll start with Carolina. Cam Newton concussion. Yeah, that's exactly how it's going to sum up the weekend. Derek Anderson came in through 2 touchdowns, kind of saved the people that played Olsen. Like, I think the thing that we need to talk about the most here is the Carolina defense, right?
They're not good. They were never good. They were never good. If you listen to the Third Day podcast, I made the exact case for why they're not good. They have 2 rookie corners, and they played 3 of the worst passing attacks in the NFL. This was a perfect spot to attack Atlanta, and I hope you all did. Like, it was a dreamy spot. There's no way a corner from Samford is going to stop Julio Jones. Like, at some point, you just got to look at common sense, right?
No, I get it. I get it. Fozzie Whitaker, 9 catches for 86 yards on 9 targets. Greg Olsen, 13 targets. Benjamin, 7. They trailed a lot in this game. There was a lot of passing. What do we really take out of this game from the Carolina side? There's
actually one thing I'm really taking away from the Carolina side. Devin Funchess has just been a massive disappointment this season, and we get a matchup against the Bucs next week. I think Ted Ginn is going to make a fantastic tournament play. I think he's finally going to start seeing those snaps, and I'm really curious to look at the Carolina snap count because I haven't seen it yet. But I have a feeling that his snap count was on the rise, and he's a vertical threat, and they really need that in their pass game, even if Cam Newton's a little bit limited, or I don't know what the deal with the concussion is. I assumed he was going to pass that concussion protocol. Just we had Theo Riddick, right, so we know how long it took. I feel like he's going to pass that concussion protocol and not be an issue. But, you know, Ted Ginn against Tampa, I think, can run vertical, and I think he's a great tournament play.
Atlanta side, Matt Ryan's good. Julio Jones is really good at football. Telvin Coleman and Freeman are kind of in a share at this point, and it's going to be tough to kind of pinpoint these running backs.
Yeah, we're not touching Atlanta for another 2.5 weeks, so kind of just throw them away. We're not going to hear about them for 3 more weeks. They're fades until they get to the Chargers on the 23rd. At Broncos, at Seattle. What's your interest level in either one? I have 0.
Well, we'll talk about that at Seattle when it gets there in a couple weeks. But
yeah, all right, my interest level is still 0.
That's fair enough. Oakland Raiders, Baltimore Ravens. If you guys listen to the Thursday podcast, all I'm going to say is I nailed this. Yep. Thank you. Take my bow.
You nailed it. I didn't even listen to you. Like, I was trying to listen to you as lock captain. I got locked out, and I said, fudge. I didn't play enough Crabtree. I texted Stevie, and I was like, congratulations on the Crabtree bomb going off because I have none. And he certainly did not disappoint.
3 touchdowns, 12 targets. Cooper, 6 targets. That was the closest thing to it. Derek Carr looked good. 25 for 35, 199 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 picks. Like, he was just efficient in this game. And, like, we're done with the running situation in Oakland, right? Like, it's just a fade at this point. We're targeting Cooper, Crabtree, and some Carr, and that's it.
Yep. And DeAndre Washington was going to win this job. There'll be a time come in a few weeks where we're playing DeAndre Washington. That will be a thing.
Yeah,
they drafted him. He's been crushing all offseason. It was just a matter of time. He's going to win that job. And, Latavius Murray, if you have exposure to him in your season long, it's time to just drop him because he's nothing the rest of the season, to be honest.
Yeah, try to send out some trades. Washington did average 6 yards per carry on 5 carries, but Honestly, it's just going to be the passing game for me for Oakland pretty much unless we get a Washington 20 carry game, and then I'll jump on board.
Yeah, right. It's going to happen. It's going to be a few more weeks. You got some transition weeks, so just be paying attention to the Washington snap counts, to his carries and his reception total. He got 8 touches in this game. That thing's going to rise. As soon as you start to get to 12 or 14, you can kind of hop onto your tournaments. I think that's the time to hop on and catch that first game.
Baltimore side of things here, Terrence West, the news came out that he was going to get the start, and did he ever? It's something that we're going to want to pay attention to. He had 21 carries, 113 yards, 5.4 yards per carry, and a touchdown. Solid game here from West.
Yeah, I got on West this morning when Justin Forsett was ruled inactive. I really felt that his probability of getting 20-plus touches was real, and the Oakland run defense has been bad. I knew there was a ton of risk, but it was a risk worth taking, and I was a little bit overweight on the field, and he really performed here. I do worry a little bit here. I think Javoris Allen is going to start getting more carries, and I do think that the rookie they chose out of Louisiana Tech, Kenneth Dixon, is going to start to get in here. Giants, Jets, Steelers, their next 3. I think this is going to turn to a bit of a little muddy situation here. I would probably avoid it. I know the Redskins' run defense is really bad, and we're going to really want to hop on here with Terrence West. But unless we get some sort of security about his snap count, I think there's a lot of risk there.
You remember laughing at me when I said Steve Smith?
Man, not only did I laugh at you, I laughed at the 3 people that told me to play him via text message. I said, you guys are words I can't say on this air. This is, I thought you guys were sharp. I said a lot of things along that line, and I was eating a ton of crow about that all afternoon, really, to be honest.
We can still take out of this game, too, Mike Wallace, still 10 targets. Like, Mike Wallace, Steve Smith. Steve Smith was in a really good matchup here, and I still think Mike Wallace is the number 1 guy here.
Yeah, completely agree.
Can't wait to see the snap count on Pitta. Obviously I was working and I wasn't actually watching the games, but watching the snaps didn't seem like he was in there a lot today. I want to see his snap count tomorrow.
Yeah, I did too. I played him in cash across the board. He was kind of one of my biggest disappointments on the day, and I was out enjoying the day watching the Ryder Cup with buddies at a local watering hole. So I can't say I was paying as much attention to the games as I normally do when I'm in my apartment having 3 screens up. But I certainly didn't look like he was getting a whole lot of targets. So I got to see what was going on there.
Detroit and Chicago, this game was really disappointing. A lot of people on the Lions, and they just didn't look good. Like,
Can I just say what we all need to say at this point? Matt Stafford outside is not good at football. Now, the good news is he only has to play outside one more time this year.
That is good news.
But he's not good. He's just not good outside. It's consistent. We just have to understand that moving forward, and don't let any narratives get us off it in the future.
Are we ever playing Golden Tate ever again?
No, and I didn't understand why people played him this week. I laughed at a couple things this week. I laughed at Dwayne Washington, and he got hurt, but whatever. He was ineffective before he left. And Golden Tate, if you were playing Detroit, it should have been Marvin Jones, and he just didn't. Matt Stafford was just bad. There's no way to honestly say anything else other than that. He was bad. They have a good rebound spot next week against the Eagles. I think the Eagles are overrated. It's in a dome. This is a good spot to hop right back on Detroit. It's going to take a lot of willpower, but it's a great spot.
Chicago, Brian Hoyer and Jordan Howard looked really good in this game.
Yeah, Jordan Howard. I really had a lot of trust in Jordan Howard this week, and it was one of those things where I knew what I was getting myself into, and I knew it could backfire. But he honestly looked really good. He got a ton of points for a guy that never got a touchdown. 111 yards rushing on 23 carries and 3 catches for 21. I know they said he was going to be in a timeshare with Langford moving forward when he gets back, but get more performances like this? I don't think so.
Brian Hoyer, 302 yards and 2 touchdowns, really spread it out. I I know you don't like Kevin White, but again, he led the targets here for Chicago.
The Kevin White train against Indianapolis next week is just going to be insane. I will be riding the train against him, and we'll just see whatever happens there. Kevin White's going to be the trendiest player of all time next week, and I'll just take Eddie Royal. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I still don't think Jeffrey's healthy. Next game was probably one of the biggest shocks of the weekend. The Rams and the Cardinals. The LA Rams went into Arizona, and they beat Arizona.
Yeah, they ran pretty good, though. I think Arizona was about to win that game when Carson Palmer got knocked out into the concussion protocol, and we all know Drew Stanton is not a viable option. So, do I think that LA performed really well? Yes. Do I think they were going to win this game if Carson Palmer plays the whole game? Absolutely not. And so I'm really going to kind of evaluate the situation as through the time Carson Palmer was in the game. And what I saw a lot of was John Brown. The resurgence of John Brown came back. He got 16 targets in this game, and a lot of that was with Carson Palmer. I think he's an interesting option moving forward.
He's like a tournament player's dream. If you're a tournament player, you love John Brown.
Yeah, you hadn't really had to think about him until now, and he had a big game when no one owned him, and now you got to recalibrate your John Brown exposure moving forward.
What are we doing with Brian Quick? We liked Quick a couple years ago. He was one of the better receivers coming up as far as like young guys, and then got hurt, didn't see much of him, and now we're starting to see Brian Quick again.
Yeah, I really can't imagine I'm rostering an LA Ram at any point this season. I just can't imagine on any sort of full slate that's a worthy play. So I'm just ignoring the entire team. And there's honestly no other team in the NFL I approach that way.
All right, let's talk Saints. Let's talk Chargers. We chatted before the podcast about Melvin Gordon. If you play Melvin Gordon, you got your 2 touchdowns. Congratulations. Oh. You got 7 targets out of the backfield. Congratulations. But Melvin Gordon behind this offensive line is just showing that he's not safe. He's not.
The most tilting part of the day was Melvin Gordon getting there. I played him in cash just like anybody else.
You have to play him in cash.
But it was a complete tournament fade for me, and I could have been more tilted about how he got his touchdowns. 2 pass interferences, the ball's at the half-yard line, and he just pounds it in. Just not even on the first chance, too. It took him multiple chances each time. That was just a super, super frustrating result for me. Less than 2 yards per carry. Everything I thought Dexter McCluster would have a bigger role. That didn't happen, but honestly, just Melvin Gordon was bad. I'm still mad about it. The thought process was great, and everyone's going to go right back to the well next week at Raiders too, and I'm just going to stay right off. I'm going to run it right back.
And the thing that we want to talk about the receiving game is Phillip Rivers just continues to spread it out. We've seen here, we have 5 guys with over 7 targets each.
Yeah, it was just it was really tough. A lot of good targets, a lot of spread around. We got to see what Gates' status next week is. Dontrell Inman had the game. I've been rostering him 10% or 5% the last few weeks. I finally was he can't do anything, and this goes bonkers. Every one of these guys in the pass-catching range at this point is worthy of playing low-owned in tournaments with Phillip Rivers just because they all have upside, just depending on which one gets the better coverage.
Oh, other side of the ball, John Kuhn had 3 touchdowns. I will sum up the Saints with that.
I could have been more happy, though. I know it was really painful for everybody else, but for me, I was celebrating those touchdowns more than anything. I had a pretty big Saints fade this week, and I really got away with it. Didn't deserve to get away with it. The Saints offense was way better than I thought it was going to be. But I got away with it because John Kuhn caught all the touchdowns, and in DFS sometimes you just got to roll with the brakes, and this was one.
Hey, the Saints put up 35 points on the road.
Yeah, no, they were really good. Could not have been more wrong about them, and just got away with it.
Cowboys 49ers, Dak Prescott, 4 games now, 0 turnovers, no fumbles, no picks. Tony Romo, I think he has 120-plus games. He's only done that 1 time.
Yeah, this is partly the schedule. Giants, Redskins, Bears, 49ers. Let's see how he handles the next few weeks here. Like, don't get me wrong, this was a really trap game for the Dallas Cowboys, and this absolutely was a good win. But I kind of need to see them against some teams that are not really bad. And honestly, their entire schedule is super, super light. Like Bengals, Packers, Eagles, Browns. Like, I'm not really seeing a whole lot of teams that scare me either. Some interesting road games down the stretch in October, November, December. But, for a little bit of while, I think we can kind of ride this out.
You believe in Elliott yet?
I was on Elliott huge this week.
No, I just remember the first couple weeks you were not loving some Elliott, but he
also was terrible those weeks, right? Isn't that the goal of the game? You play him on the good weeks and you fade him on the bad weeks?
I will say that he looks a lot more patient at running back.
Yeah, he definitely, the speed of the game is getting there to him. And I think they're just giving him more work too. You looked at 20 attempts week 1, 21 week 2, 32 touches week 2, and I feel like he had a better groove of the situation. 6 yards per carry. His yards per carry has gone up each and every week, and I think he's gonna have he's had some really good games at this point, and the passing game was really key. He had a really good role in the passing game today. He only caught one ball, but they gave him a couple other targets and looks in the backfield. His first read was to Elliott. It wasn't always open. I think that's interesting looking forward. He gets a pretty good matchup here next week. I'm trying to pull it up. I have a note that it's pretty good at the Bengals. I think that's a solid option. The Bengals, of course, are a defense that we kind of like here over the first few weeks, but they haven't faced any sort of rushing attack. Jets, Steelers with no Le'Veon Bell, Broncos, and Dolphins. I think Ezekiel Elliott a sneaky option next week.
So, I texted you and we talked a lot about Beasley this week, and Dak Prescott locked in on Bryce Butler this week.
I actually don't even know what the final line for Beasley was. He's a guy that I added a lot of exposure to early today. Let me see. 3 for 66. Yeah, his prop for yards today was absolutely insane. It was like 72.5, and I hope that on RotoGrinders they haven't pulled it down yet, because I want to just give you a list of the receivers that he was matched up with here in the prop world. And good, it's still up, so I can give you a list. So if I quickly pull up the prop for Cole Beasley, 67.5 wide receiving yards, right? Here are the guys he was around: Emmanuel Sanders, Jeremy Maclin, Larry Fitzgerald.
No, and
I just think you had to play him when you see that prop. I think you had to have exposure.
I texted you Saturday, and I was like, dude, or it was Friday, and I was like, hey, I know you're not on Beasley, but he's being targeted on 33% of his routes. That's an insane number for what his price was.
Yeah, and I totally stole that stat on my Friday show, too. You texted me Friday morning. I was like, I will steal that and make myself look smart. Thank you very much, Stevie.
Jason Witten continues to be a security blanket. He had 9 targets, 7 catches, 47 yards. He could be a threat in the red zone if it's not Elliott, because, Dez Bryant, we don't know what's going to happen with Dez.
Yeah, I think Bryce Butler is actually going to get more of those looks moving forward. I'm actually not really high on Jason Witten here. I think Bryce Butler is the guy that I'm going to keep an eye on. 9 targets, a touchdown, 5 for 41. It's the guy going forward I have a lot of interest in.
San Francisco, Carlos Hyde. You nailed Carlos Hyde on the show. Way too cheap. Did get in the end zone. 4.9 yards per carry, and it's his backfield. If there's a running play, it's going to be Carlos Hyde, it looks like. Honestly,
the game flow got away from him. For me, I know he was fine, but for me, this was actually kind of a disappointing outing. I thought the game flow was going to go a lot better for him. I really thought he was going to get 102 in this spot. That being said, of course, he made value, perfectly happy with it. But this game honestly didn't go as well as I thought it did for Hyde, but it just shows you that even in adverse game flow in situations, he's going to be a solid value here. And hopefully, I guess not hopefully, because if people aren't going to play him, then I hope his price stays low. This week, he's not on the main slate, so I guess he's playing on Sunday night, so we don't have to deal with that for a little bit.
Do you have who San Francisco? Oh, you just said that you don't know.
Oh, I do. I have it up. It's actually Thursday night. They're playing the Cardinals.
Oh, that stinks, because Jeremy Curley might be really sneaky. Didn't
one of the slots I'm going to pull up the Cardinals. I'm pretty sure one of the Rams slots just went off, right?
Well, Quick had 2 touchdowns. I don't know who played the slot for St. Louis this weekend.
I'm assuming it was Quick. I guess it's one of those things we'll have to look forward to as like the matchups come out, but definitely pay attention to the slot against the Cardinals. If that's a thing, Jeremy Curley, of course, would be a great option.
Pittsburgh at home, it's a thing. Ben Roethlisberger's at home is just, he's insane. It's just, and like, we knew this offense was going to get better with Le'Veon Bell. He just showed how good he really is, and he's the best running back in the NFL.
Yeah, boy, like Kansas City got super lucky last week, and they put up a huge dud. This is one of those games we talked about earlier. You got to throw out some outliers. This game's kind of an outlier. I'm gonna try not to take too much away from it. I think there's a couple things I want to take a note of. And now this was Alex Smith threw 50 pass attempts, right? So you got to keep this a little bit in perspective. But Chris Conley finally got the targets I think he deserves as number 2 in that offense. A guy that I'm really looking forward to him developing. I think he's a great player, and I'm really hoping they start giving him some more look because he's a guy that really has potential. So that's a guy I'm focusing on. Other than that, it kind of was just a dud game. I think Spencer Ware was a great tournament option today. I saw a lot of people I respect got on it late, and I couldn't have agreed more. 5 targets, 1 catch. If he catches another 2 targets for 15 yards, I think we're having a different conversation right now. Jamal Charles will be back after the bye, though, so the Spencer Ware days are kind of over.
And Charles he was on the field. I think he's okay. I think they'll get their bye week, and I think we're going to see pretty much a split backfield there. Charles getting a lot of the first down, second down, and Ware getting a lot of the third down and goal line.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's kind of just a situation where Ware's kind of just done at this point.
And when Pittsburgh's at home, you can play anybody from that team.
What a great analysis there, Stevie. Thank you. They get the Jets next week, in case you weren't concerned about playing them anyways. And, the Jets are slightly a funnel defense because they can't stop the pass to save their lives.
Oh, man.
Antonio Brown's under 10K. I think he's in play. Let me pull him up here. I don't know.
He is going to destroy Darrelle Revis next week.
Yeah, he's 9,800, and I really hope that price scares people.
All right, so that's going to do it for the review. Let's break down my DraftKings lineup. We've been talking a lot about DraftKings. We'll break down my DraftKings lineup for cash, and then we'll talk about your FanDuel cash lineup. So I put up 140, which really solid. A lot of people didn't play Julio, so it didn't kill you in cash. And the big wide receivers were more tournament plays. So 140, I ended up I haven't done the math, obviously, but it was a good day. So I started with Cam Newton. And I think that was the way to go on DraftKings today. We had so much value with Jordan Howard and Carlos Hyde, Terrell Pryor. It was really easy to fit in Cam Newton in cash.
Yeah, I actually didn't get there, but it wasn't because I didn't want to. It was just a situation that just didn't quite work out. But I totally was on board with Cam and cash. For me, it just didn't quite work out. I kind of got lucky there. I think he was just going to go off in the fourth quarter, so it's kind of a situation where kind of got a little bit lucky. I played him in Thursday cash when I had an extra running back value spot, but on the DK main, I didn't go there.
Yeah, and then, running back situation here, Jordan Howard was 37. I just didn't see a way that he wasn't going to get that 3X. Opportunity and cost there. He was the lock on DraftKings for cash with Carlos Hyde. They were just both too cheap, and you knew that they were going to get 3X in the opportunity.
Yeah, it was. There was just no scenario in which I was fitting Jordan Howard and Carlos Hyde. If they cost me my week, so be it.
And then the flex position, I'm going to skip over to it real quick. Went back with another running back. Something that I really like to do in cash games is I like to get that floor of 3 running backs on DraftKings and cash. And Le'Veon Bell was 7,500, and it just 7,500 for Le'Veon Bell.
You fade Melvin Gordon in cash. Wow, you're a braver soul than me.
I didn't on FanDuel. DraftKings I did.
You're a braver soul than me. I couldn't even pull that trigger, and I had a complete tournament fade. I literally had 0, and I had probably 250 tournament lamps out there between $3 scripts and whatnot. I had 0. So that's a braver fade than I, and I could even do that in cash. So yeah, you're a braver man than me.
Didn't kill me today though.
No, it didn't. No, totally didn't kill you. And honestly, it was probably the right play. You're a braver man than me. That's all I wanted to say.
Well, I went Cousins Gordon on FanDuel, so going Cam Bell here didn't hurt my feelings.
Yeah, what'd you do at wide receiver? You went Antonio and then kind of a couple values, Will Fuller and somebody else?
No, I went Antonio Brown, 9,700. I don't even care. Like at this point, like he's the guy on a PPR site. He only had 4 catches, but he had 2 touchdowns. Jeremy Maclin, I thought that Kansas City was going to get behind in that game. Like I couldn't have been more right about that game, right? Like
You can't play Jerry Maclin in cash, but whatever. I love you too much. I won't make too much fun of you on the pod.
and then Terrell Pryor, it was just
Well, yeah, of course. That was a free square.
And then I went.
He got shadowed and still was just went like for 4x. So.
And then I went Texans defense over Cardinals defense, just to kind of be a little different. And
Texans was chalk, wasn't it?
Cardinals were a little bit higher.
Were they?
Actually, I think New England was higher than both of them.
I went Cardinals because I thought Texans were going to be too chalky, and we'll get there in a minute.
So that's kind of where I was at. I made sure Le'Veon Bell was in the flex spot, not Carlos Hyde, Dean. But yeah, and then like our cash lineups, Dean and our cash lineups were so close this week. It was pretty chalky week.
I'm not even talking about that. I'm still upset.
All right, let's talk FanDuel cash lineup review. I let you have FanDuel today, and let's see what you got.
Yeah, so I went Kirk Cousins. We talked about it. I wanted to get to Cam, but Cam was 9,300, and I just really couldn't make it work. So I went to Kirk. I thought he was fine. He was safe. He was 7,600. It was a 1,700 price discount, and I thought I got a little bit too much with that. I went Melvin Gordon here. I had faded him on Thursday cash with Carlos Hyde. I kind of wanted to get the exposure. I didn't want to completely fade Melvin Gordon in cash, so I played him with Jordan Howard, who at 5,600 I thought was just a lock. And I saw a lot of people didn't play him, and I was really surprised by that. At 5,600 on FanDuel, I thought that was a free square. And then at wide receiver, I went Antonio Brown, Emmanuel Sanders. I actually did go with Sanders in cash. I didn't remember if I did. I actually pulled that trigger, and I'm happy about that. Marvin Jones was kind of the letdown there. He was the last guy in. If you saw my Twitter, I kind of did a 3-way poll between Fitz, Marvin Jones, and Ty. For slates, I had Ty. Marvin Jones was the huge winner. I kind of trusted the people. Yeah, it didn't quite work out, but he still had 10 points. Not terrible. Dennis Pitta was my tight end across the board, and we were talking about him earlier. I'm not sure what happened there. 3 catches for 17 against the Raiders secondary that just allowed every tight end to go bonkers. And then Josh Lambo for kicker. He was one of my favorite kickers of the week. It was kind of a nice hedge play a little bit, but I also knew a lot of points to be scored there. He got 2 field goals and 4 extra points. No complaints there. And I had the money for the Arizona defense, and they let me down for sure. I thought Texans would be chalky. I thought Tennessee could score some points, and I really thought Arizona was going to really show up today, and they definitely did not do that.
All right, little insight there. You guys asked for it on the forum, so we're delivering some cash game review. And the last thing that people wanted us to talk about is they wanted us to talk about like how we different like our cash plays and our tournament plays. And obviously the easiest one to talk about is ownership, but I feel like this past weekend is the easiest like kind of definition of that. And like let's talk Julio Jones for just a second. I know he went off for 51 fantasy points, and that shouldn't shock anybody, like ever, that Julio Jones or Antonio Brown or Odell Beckham, like any of these big wide receivers go off for these massive amount of points because like they're still really good wide receivers. And anytime that you can get a guy like this under 20%, under 15%, like those are the times that you need to jump on these tournament plays. They're not going to work out every time. You run this scenario back with Julio against a defense that is highly rated in the public eye. I'll say it that way. So like, Julio against Richard Sherman 10 times. Julio Jones is probably going to put up big numbers in 3 of those games. So you play the percentages of getting these big wide receivers in these tough matchups and just taking advantage of the percentage.
Yeah, this was a situation. Second highest total on the board. It went a little bit down on Sunday, but it's still closed in the top 3. And it was just a situation where you've got a top-end guy against the second-round corner from Samford, not a high-level D1 program. They're going to play on man-on-man. That's kind of the Carolina philosophy with cover 2 help over the top. But against a freak athlete like Julio Jones, that's just not going to work. And Yeah, I told you when I saw 2 to 4%, I thought that was insane. I saw 5 to 8, and I still said that was insane. Even 10% was too low, but at least people were starting to get on board by the end of the week.
So how you separate that? Because that's how people were asking. Like, how do we separate that? Like me personally, how I'm going to separate that is I'm going to separate that on. I'm going to get some of my Antonio Brown exposure, and I'm going to move some on to Julio to have that pivot. Because honestly, each week they're both capable of big games, and I want one of these high-priced receivers. And I had some teams with both of them this weekend.
Yeah, this was a situation where the ownership gap between Antonio Brown and Julio Jones from the start was going to be too wide. And those are situations I looked at target immediately, where the second best play shouldn't be 5 or 6 times less owned than the best play. Sure, the best play is going to be like probably a 75-25 favorite, right? But that's only like 3 times more likely to work. So when I can get an ownership leverage play like that, I'm going to take it, especially in a total I thought was going very overlooked. It was the second highest total on the week. And when people said, what about Julio Jones? It was a situation where they said, yes, I get it. But when you don't ever hear like a concrete reason why not to play Julio Jones or any player in general, when you're just like, yes, but those are situations to attack. That just means they're not comfortable with the situation and not necessarily that it's a bad spot. So that's kind of a situation where I watch a lot of what's going on across the industry and look for situations where people are just not sure, but they don't know why. Obviously, there's plays sometimes where you know why it's a bad play, like Melvin Gordon, like bad offensive line. And there's certain situations you can spell it out. But for Julio Jones, I never heard the case of like why he was a bad play.
No, and I definitely agree. So let's talk Melvin Gordon. Like we talked about Melvin Gordon being a lock in cash, and I didn't play him in DraftKings cash. I did play him on FanDuel cash, just like my lineup without him on DraftKings. But like he was the cash game play this week. But like I don't care. Like so, this one's not result oriented. Like he was the best tournament fade this weekend. When we found out like he had 3 offensive linemen banged up, like it's just an easy stay away. Yeah, he still got there. But that's when you attack it and you like pivot off of Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, especially when you see a total, right, of like a high total and 2.2 yards per carry against a bad Colts defense, and the defensive linemen were in trouble this week. It was just a really good spot to just kind of let it go and fade.
So, we talked tournament, we talked cash. So this week we had a starting running back that we knew was going to get a majority of the carries in Jordan Howard. He was under 4K. Like, I ended up with a lot of tournament exposure and cash exposure on him. There's just times where, like, cost comes to opportunity on a guy like this that's under 4K that we think is going to get 20-plus touches in a good matchup. Like, that's when you just don't care about the ownership and you try to get different ownership elsewhere, right?
And reverse line movement towards his team's favor, which kind of promotes maybe a better game flow than people think, too, was also a nice factor to have as well.
So, like, you hear all the time people talking tournaments, and they'll be like, well, you have to have a lineup full of 3% owned guys. And that's just not true. Like, there's good plays for good reasons. And, like, so you just have to find those guys. Like, this week for me, it was Crabtree. This week for you, it was Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. Like, trust your process. And people will hear football. There's so much information out there. And, like, obviously we do a podcast too where we talk about football picks. But if we're part of your process, trust your process. If we're not, then, you have to trust yourself. That's where it comes to do with football.
And we're not going to bet 100%. Like, we just aren't. Like, it's called sports, right? Nothing's obviously that predictable. If it was, Stevie and I would be living in a mansion in Florida, just chilling and living the good life. We were at 100%. So, sometimes we'll be right and sometimes we're going to be wrong, but just listen to our takes and decide, like, is this something I believe in, or no, they're missing something else? And, those are certainly things you got to remember when you kind of digest any sort of information, not just us.
Listen to the why, not listen to the who.
Yes, exactly. Very, very important.
I think that we crushed some NFL talk here on a Monday. We'll talk obviously more throughout the week. I have no idea what the podcast is going to be about tomorrow. So for those of you wanting to know, that's going to happen tomorrow sometime during the day where I figure out what we're going to talk about on the podcast tomorrow.
Good to see Stevie once again being very professional and on top of things.
Yes, very on top of things. Like, we crushed this one. What are you talking about?
We did crush this one. We're kind of on a heater, to be honest. We've had a few good pods in a row.
I know, baseball, man. Baseball the other day. All right, so what I want you to do before we get out of here, I want you to pull up a DraftKings slate for next week. We're going to do a Monday edition of our 3-1-1.
Oh, my goodness. You kidding me?
Yes, this is what we're going to do.
Oh, my goodness. All right, I can pull this off. Here we go. I got this. All right.
So if you haven't listened to the podcast on Thursdays, we do quarterback that we think is going to get over 300 yards, wide receiver that's going to get over 100 yards, and a running back that's going to get over 100 yards.
No chance you've graded us out, right?
I don't have the paper from last week. Hold on, real quick.
I know I had Julio, so like immediately like a win.
No,
for me.
you had Fuller.
Oh, he got 81. God bleeping.
Hyde didn't get over 100, did he?
No.
But you had Matt Ryan.
Great. Yeah, 3 great plays and only 1 meets these stupid qualifications. What a joke.
So I had Stafford, Lamar Miller, and Mike Evans.
Stevie, you're over 6, buddy.
I am over 6.
We might start finding a new podcast host here if you keep this nonsense up.
Yeah, good luck with that. All right,
I said try. I didn't say we'd be successful.
I'll let you bat lead off here on the Monday edition of the 3-1-1.
Well, you're going to give me a freebie. I'm going to take Antonio Brown.
You can have Antonio Brown, and I'm
freebie.
So
That's a lock. Just lock that one up. No doubt.
You missed the biggest lock on the board. I'm sorry.
Okay, whoa. Time out. Antonio Brown versus Darrelle Revis is not the biggest lock on the board?
No, not the biggest lock on the board.
Oh, dream on. Dream on.
You sure you don't want to take it back before I say this?
Well, I mean, you're going to take Tom Brady, which is fine.
Come on. That is not
the biggest lock. I get it, but there's a lot of other quarterbacks I think are a lock too.
I am taking Tom Brady at Cleveland in the FU game. It's happening.
Totally get that. I totally get that.
He will be my highest owned quarterback in tournaments.
But I can get Ben Roethlisberger against a funnel defense too, and I knew you'd take Brady, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Even though I know I should take a running back, technically strategy, blah blah blah. I'm just taking Big Ben.
No, and that's fine. So I'm going to go to running back. Dude, Le'Veon Bell's 7,500 again.
It's an awful matchup. Awful matchup. Be careful, Stevie.
Oh, I know. All right, so this guy, I don't think he's topped 100 in the last couple games, but this is a good time for him to do it. I like CJ Anderson here.
Oh, thank God. I was so worried you're going to take my boy. Oh, I was so worried. Hand me DeMarco Murray, please. Thank you.
I like
Wildly
that.
spotted against Miami. Miami's just awful. Like, I think we figured it out by now. I know they're worse against the pass, but we all know Mariota really can't pass either way. So, yeah, no, it's just going to be DeMarco Murray.
No, I love that call. I'm going to go back to the well. I'm going to go Marvin Jones.
Fair enough, sir.
I could go so many spots there. That's super chalky.
I think you should have taken chalk there. You know, when you're 0 for 6, you kind of need just to get the hit any way you can get it. And I would have definitely taken that kind of sort of approach. But I like your attitude that you're just going to swing for the fences no matter what.
Do you ever see the movie Summer Catch?
I have.
Billy Brubaker, baby, button to get that first hit.
Yeah, you really could have used that, but I guess with Tom Brady, you kind of got there. Right?
Come on. Yeah, I took Tom Brady, like, against Cleveland in the FU game. So hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. If you enjoyed the NFL review, let us know on Twitter. He's at the Siege DFS. I'm at Stevie TPFL. Let us know what you think of the review. If you liked it, it might be something you guys hear in the future. Any final thoughts before we get out of here, CJ?
Nah. Hope everybody had a good week. And we'll be back next week's going to be a great week, and I'm really looking forward to next week. This was a week I felt really good about from the start, and I'm really happy I had a big week. It's always nice to have those weeks you feel good about and have a huge week.
Oh, man, just looking at the matchups next week, I'm excited already. So that's going to do it here for the Monday edition. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you again tomorrow.